They say power sits at the top of the tallest towers. But sometimes truth waits quietly at the bottom, holding a mop. That morning, in a glass-walled boardroom 80 floors above the city, a white-haired billionaire leaned back and sneered. "Translate this," he said, tossing a thick contract. The papers slid and stopped at the feet of 14-year-old Malik Carter, the janitor's son. Laughter filled the room, but Malik had a secret they'd soon regret discovering. It had started like any other morning. Malik waited in the corner while his father polished the floor before the meeting. He liked the stillness, the hum of the air vents, the distant sirens far below, the lemon scent of clean. He'd sit cross-legged on the carpet, doing homework, invisible to the people who stepped around him. Today, the company's CEO, Harlan Price, was restless. His diamond watch gleamed brighter than the city skyline as he snapped orders at his team. They were finalizing a massive deal with a Chinese tech giant. But their translator had quit that morning. When his eyes landed on Malik, a cruel smile tugged at his lips. "You there," he said, pointing with his gold pen. "You like hanging around this room? Let's see what you can do. Ever seen Chinese before?" A few of the board members chuckled. Malik's father froze, rag still in his hand. "Sir, he's just a—" Price cut him off with a raised palm. "Then it'll be entertaining. Translate this, boy. Or maybe your dad should start packing his mop bucket." The laughter stung. It wasn't just the joke, it was the tone, the kind that told you exactly where you stood in someone else's world. Malik felt his stomach twist, saw the apology in his father's eyes, and something inside him hardened. He stepped forward, voice low but steady. "I can try," Price leaned back, amused. "Oh, you can try? This I have to see." Malik knelt, gathering the papers. Symbols filled the pages. Sharp, flowing strokes. Mandarin. He'd seen them before, late at night, glowing on his cracked tablet screen as he whispered sounds and tones to himself in the dark. His father thought he was playing games. He wasn't. His eyes moved over the lines, smooth, confident. "The title's wrong," he said quietly. The room stopped. Price frowned. "What do you mean, wrong?" "In your English version," Malik said, pointing to the top line. "It says your company owns the software. But in Chinese, it says the partner company keeps full control. That's not a typo. That's a trap." The laughter faded. An executive with silver glasses leaned forward, scrolling through her tablet. "He's right," she murmured. "The clause is completely flipped." Price's jaw tightened. Malik turned another page. "This part too, payment schedule. In Chinese, it says you pay them first. The English version says they pay you. That's a $200 million difference." Phones came out. Fingers flew over keyboards. Whispers spread like fire. Price's smirk faltered. "You expect me to believe a janitor's kid just—" Malik looked him in the eye. "You asked me to translate, sir." "I did." The room fell into stunned silence. Executives checked their documents again and again. Every word the boy spoke matched the truth. Every correction saved them millions. For the first time that morning, Harlan Price, the man who never let anyone else have the last word, sat speechless. He thought it was just a joke. He had no idea the kid he mocked was about to save his entire empire. The air in the boardroom felt heavy, like even the walls were waiting to see what would happen next. Mr. Price's smirk was gone, replaced by something he wasn't used to feeling: doubt. Malik stood quietly, the papers trembling just slightly in his hands. His father shifted uncomfortably by the door, eyes darting between his son and the billionaire who could end his job with a single word. Finally, Price forced a laugh. Sharp, brittle, hollow. "Cute trick, kid. You probably saw a movie or something. But real business," he said, waving a dismissive hand, "isn't for people like you." Malik didn't move. He didn't argue. He just looked at the document again. "There's more," he said softly. One of the executives, a woman in a gray suit with calm eyes, leaned forward. Go on, Malik turned the final page, his voice stronger now. The agreement says your company takes responsibility for shipping delays. That means if their product is late, you pay penalties. In English, it says the opposite. The woman checked her copy and gasped. He's right again, murmurs rippled around the room. Chairs creaked. Someone dropped a pen. Price slammed his palm on the table. Enough, this is nonsense. But even as he barked the words, his confidence was cracking. The woman, Miss Evans, head of operations, studied Malik carefully. Young man, she said, where did you learn this? Malik hesitated. Online, he said. Mostly apps, some videos. I talk to people on forums. I like learning how words work. You taught yourself Mandarin? She asked. He nodded. And Cantonese. A little Korean, too. The silence that followed wasn't mocking anymore. It was awe. Price's jaw clenched. He wasn't about to let a janitor's kid steal his spotlight in front of his own board. Fine, he snapped. You think you know Chinese? Let's test that theory. He grabbed his phone. Call the Beijing office, he barked to his assistant. Put them on the big screen. Within seconds, the massive monitor flickered to life. 3 executives appeared. Formal, composed, speaking rapidly in Mandarin. Price cleared his throat, trying to sound confident. Ni hao, he began awkwardly. Check translation. Boy, here. The men on the screen exchanged confused glances. One of them frowned. Price's cheeks turned red. You see? He said, gesturing at Malik. Now, let's see you. But Malik had already stepped closer. Zhao Shanghao, he said gently, bowing slightly. Wo shi Malike kate, zhe shi wo de rongxing. The change was instant. The 3 executives' faces lit up with recognition and surprise. One of them spoke rapidly, smiling. Malik listened, nodded, and replied with perfect tone and rhythm. Tamen shogong's heiwei li yuyanzhong de kuowu. He translated calmly. They said they've been trying to warn you for 2 weeks. The translation service missed the meaning. Gasps filled the room. Miss Evans covered her mouth. You're saying the translator made the errors, not the Chinese team? Malik nodded. Yes, they were trying to be polite. Their wording means long-term partnership, but your English version sounds short-term and disrespectful. Price blinked rapidly. You can't possibly, Malik looked straight at him. Sir, they think you don't value their culture. A ripple of unease passed through the room. Phones buzzed again. International partners calling, anxious, confused. Then a voice came over the speaker in German. Malik turned instinctively. Ein Moment, bitte, he said, switching effortlessly to German. Ja, ich verstehe. The machinery is installed backwards. He relayed the issue to the board. Their technical manual was mistranslated. The parts are reversed. They've been losing weeks of production. Now the room was chaos. Calls in Arabic, Korean, Mandarin, and one by one Malik answered them all. His voice flowed between languages like music, steady, precise, calm. Each call revealed another error, another cultural gap, another million-dollar mistake. And at the center of it all stood a 14-year-old boy in worn sneakers, translating the entire company back to life. The billionaire who mocked him stood silent, his empire hanging on the words of a janitor's son. Finally, Malik hung up the last call and looked around the room. The Arabic team said they almost pulled out of their deal tomorrow, he said quietly, because one word in your contract disrespected their faith. Price swallowed hard, eyes wide. How many languages do you speak? Miss Evans asked, voice trembling slightly. Malik shrugged, a little shy now. Fluently? Maybe 12. But I'm learning more. The room erupted in stunned whispers. For the first time, people weren't looking through him. They were looking at him. Price's voice came out dry and cracking. You think this means something? You think this makes you special? Miss Evans turned toward him sharply. Actually, she said, I think it makes him extraordinary." Malik looked at the floor, then at his father, whose eyes were full of something Malik had never seen before. Pride. He didn't say a word. He didn't have to. He was the janitor's son, the boy everyone ignored. And yet, in one afternoon, he had done what no executive could. He'd saved a billion-dollar company with nothing but his mind and his voice. The boardroom that once laughed at him now buzzed like a hive. Phones rang. Executives whispered. Deals that had been falling apart for months were suddenly alive again. All because of a 14-year-old boy in sneakers who wasn't supposed to be there. Mr. Price's empire had just been saved. But his pride, that was another story. He leaned on the edge of the table, red-faced and silent, while Ms. Evans typed furiously, sending updates to their overseas offices. Malik stood beside his father, quiet but alert, watching the adults scramble to keep up with what had just happened. Finally, Price straightened his expensive suit, forcing a grin. "All right," he said tightly, "you've had your fun. But this—" He gestured toward Malik. "This doesn't make him a genius. It makes him lucky." "Lucky," Ms. Evans said, spinning in her chair. "He just saved us hundreds of millions of dollars." Price's voice rose. "He's a kid. A janitor's kid. He doesn't belong in this room, and I won't have this company embarrassed by a publicity stunt." Malik's father stepped forward, his hands trembling. "Sir, with respect—" "Respect?" Price snapped. Respect would be cleaning quietly while professionals handle real business. The room went still. For a moment, Malik wanted to disappear. He could feel every stare, every whisper. But then he remembered how his father's shoulders slumped every night when he came home exhausted. He thought about the nights they ate noodles while Price's ads flashed on the TV bragging about innovation and equality. Something in him cracked open. Malik stepped forward. His voice didn't shake. "You said I don't belong here, sir. But maybe if your people listened to mine, your company wouldn't be losing millions." The words landed like thunder. Even the air conditioner seemed to hold its breath. Price's jaw tightened. "You're done," he said coldly. "Security will escort you out." But before he could say another word, Miss Evans' phone buzzed loudly on the table. She answered, and her face drained of color. "Oh no," she whispered. "It's Beijing again. There's a crisis in one of the factories." Price's head snapped up. "What kind of crisis?" She put the call on speaker. Rapid Mandarin poured from the phone. Technical, frantic, urgent. None of the executives could understand a word. "Get me a translator," Price barked. "They said the earliest available is 3 hours," Ms. Evans said. "It's midnight there." Malik stepped closer. "May I?" Price glared at him. "No, absolutely not." But the panic in the caller's voice was rising, shouting now, people talking over each other. Words that sounded like danger and leak. Ms. Evans shoved the phone toward Malik. "Do it." Malik took the phone. His tone was calm, respectful, deliberate. "Wo zai ting Kingman Yidian," he said softly. "I'm listening. Please slow down." The shouting eased instantly. The voice on the other end steadied. Malik listened, nodding. His face grew serious. "There's been a gas leak," he translated quickly. "The plant manager says the English safety manual is wrong. It tells workers to evacuate within 200 meters, but the Chinese version says 500. Miss Evans blanched. "How many people are still inside?" 43, Malik said, relaying details, his voice faster now. "They're scared to act without official approval." Price's face went pale. "Oh my God!" Malik turned back to the call, speaking rapid Mandarin that none of them could follow but everyone could feel. Calm, steady, commanding. The chaos on the other end faded until there was only silence, and then a soft reply. "They've evacuated," Malik said, lowering the phone. "All workers are safe." The room exhaled at once like it had been holding its breath for a lifetime. Then Miss Evans looked at the clock. "If you hadn't caught that mistranslation, we could have lost—" She stopped, voice cracking. Malik, you just saved 43 lives. No one moved. No one spoke. The boy they'd mocked now stood in the same room. Not a cleaner's son anymore, but a leader. Price's voice finally broke through, brittle and trembling. You think that means something? He's just lucky again. Miss Evans turned sharply. No, Harlan. He's brilliant, Price pointed at her. You're out of line. And you, she said, standing, are out of excuses. The silence that followed was absolute. For the first time, Malik saw fear in the billionaire's eyes. Not fear of losing a deal, but fear of being replaced by the truth. Price looked around the room, realizing he was alone. His own board members couldn't meet his gaze. He grabbed his briefcase. This isn't over, he muttered. None of this means anything without credentials. The doors closed behind him. Miss Evans turned to Malik. You did something extraordinary today. Malik looked down at his hands. I just didn't want anyone to get hurt. His father's arm came around his shoulder, quiet pride radiating from his eyes. That's the kind of man you're becoming, son. Malik nodded softly. Can I go finish my homework now? The room burst into gentle laughter. Not mocking this time, but amazed. As they watched him walk out, Miss Evans whispered, He's going to change everything. And she was right, because in that moment, every person in that room realized what Harlan Price never could. Greatness doesn't wear a title. It doesn't need permission. Sometimes it just carries a mop and waits for the world to finally notice. The story spread through the building before Malik even left the top floor. By lunchtime, people in the cafeteria were whispering about the janitor's kid who saved the company. By afternoon, the story had leaked to a reporter who'd been waiting in the lobby. By evening, it was everywhere, trending online, flashing across headlines like a spark no one could put out. 14-year-old translator stuns. Billion-dollar firm. Boy saves factory workers from deadly mistake. Janitor's son exposes multinational blunder. But inside that shining tower, things were quieter, heavier. Harlan Price had locked himself in his corner office. Curtains drawn, door shut. His empire was trembling, and the people he'd once ordered around were starting to whisper when he passed. Downstairs, Malik sat beside his dad in the break room, both still wearing their gray maintenance shirts. You're famous now, his father said with a shaky laugh. Look at this. He turned his cracked phone screen toward Malik, a news clip replaying the headline again and again. Malik stared, stunned. I didn't mean for this to happen. I know, son. His father's smile softened. But sometimes, doing the right thing makes noise. The door creaked open. Miss Evans stepped inside, her heels clicking against the tile. Everyone stopped talking. Malik, she said, her tone gentle, Mr. Price has requested a meeting with you and your father. The full board will be there. His father froze. Are we in trouble? She shook her head. Not exactly, but be ready. This could go either way. They took the elevator back up, the same one they used every morning, only this time Malik wasn't carrying a mop. His father's reflection in the mirror looked nervous but proud. When the doors opened, the boardroom was already packed. Every executive from earlier sat waiting, papers stacked neatly before them. The same sunlight glared through the massive windows. But the energy was different. Mr. Price was at the head of the table, expression unreadable. His voice came out smooth, too smooth. Mr. Carter, he said, looking at Malik's father. And, young Mr. Carter, Malik swallowed hard. Sir, I've been informed, Price said, steepling his fingers, that you've become something of a hero today. The media loves it. Our PR team says this could actually boost our reputation, if we handle it properly. Miss Evans gave him a sharp look. Handle it? Yes, Price said, turning toward her. We'll make a statement. Something polished. Something that makes it clear our diverse environment encourages hidden talents. He turned back to Malik and smiled, the kind of smile that never reached the eyes. "We'll give you a scholarship. Take a few photos. Everyone wins." The silence that followed was thick. Malik frowned. "A scholarship?" "Yes," Price said, as if reading from a script. "You'll thank us at the press conference tomorrow. We'll call it," he paused dramatically, "the Future Leaders Initiative. Has a nice ring, doesn't it?" Malik looked down at the gleaming table. His reflection looked small, swallowed by the room. "Sir," he said softly, "I didn't do it for a photo." Price chuckled. "Of course you didn't, but that's how the world works, son." Miss Evans leaned forward. "Harlan, stop." He turned sharply. "Excuse me." "You don't get to turn his courage into your commercial," she said firmly. "He saved your company. He saved lives, and you laughed in his face." Price's grin faltered. "Watch your tone, Evans." "No," she said, standing. "You watch yours, because the world already is." She turned to Malik. "You have a choice, Malik. You can let him use your story, or you can own it." Malik hesitated. The room was silent again, every eye on him. He could feel his father's hand resting on his shoulder, steady and warm. He took a breath. "If I speak tomorrow," he said, "I'll do it my way." Price frowned. "And what exactly does that mean?" Malik looked him dead in the eye. "It means I'll tell the truth." The next morning, the cameras flashed like lightning in front of the company tower. Journalists packed the plaza. Banners hung everywhere, celebrating youth and innovation. Price stood at the podium first, smiling through his teeth. "We're proud," he said, "to recognize young talent. Proof that opportunity is for everyone." Then he gestured toward Malik. "And now, the young man himself." Applause, cameras, 1,000 eyes. Malik walked up slowly, his father behind him, and stared at the sea of microphones. He could feel Price watching, waiting for him to read the neat little speech someone had written. But Malik didn't pick up the card. He looked straight at the crowd. "When I was little," he began, "I used to wait for my dad to finish cleaning the floors upstairs. I'd sit in the hallway, listening to meetings I wasn't supposed to hear. People talked about business, leadership, innovation, but they never looked down to see who was listening." The crowd hushed. "Yesterday," he continued, "someone laughed at me for being a janitor's kid, but I guess that's what gave me time to learn, to listen, to teach myself the things no one thought I could." He glanced at Price just for a second. "So, if this company really wants to celebrate opportunity, it should start with the people who've been invisible the longest." A wave of applause broke through the silence. Small at first, then thunderous. Miss Evans stood clapping first, then the board, then the crowd outside. Price tried to smile, but his eyes told a different story. That night, as the city lights blinked outside their small apartment, Malik sat on the couch beside his father, scrolling through hundreds of messages. Universities, foundations, offers from around the world. His father chuckled softly. "Looks like everyone wants to hire my boss," Malik grinned. "Not yet. You earned it," his father said. "Every bit of it." Malik leaned against him. "I just want people to listen, Dad." "They will now," his father said. "They will now." And for the first time, Malik believed him. Because sometimes it takes just one voice, one kid the world overlooked, to teach the powerful how to hear. 5 years later, the world knew his name, not as the janitor's son, not as the boy who translated a billionaire's contract, but as the founder of something far bigger, a global program called the Bridge Project. It started small. Malik and his father worked from their kitchen table, using an old laptop and a second-hand Wi-Fi router. Their mission was simple: to teach underprivileged kids how to learn any language, from anywhere in the world. They built online classes in every dialect they could find: Mandarin, Arabic, Swahili, Korean, Spanish, Yoruba. The same languages that had once made Malik feel invisible now became keys that opened doors for thousands of other children. Within a year, universities were calling. Companies wanted to partner. Governments offered grants. Malik never let it go to his head. He still wore the same sneakers from that day in the boardroom. But when he spoke, people listened, and every time he stood on a stage, he started his speech the same way. The first time I was ever asked to speak in front of powerful people, it wasn't an invitation. It was a dare. The crowd would always laugh softly, and then lean in. They told me to translate something I wasn't supposed to understand. But sometimes, the only reason we can't hear truth is because we never thought it could come from the bottom floor. One evening, Malik stood outside the same glass tower where it all began. The sun was setting, reflecting gold off the windows. He was 20 now, taller, more confident, but his eyes still carried that same steady calm. He'd been invited back, not as a guest, but as the youngest board advisor in the company's history. Inside, the room looked almost the same. Long table, sleek screens, the same city skyline stretching endlessly behind it. Only one chair was empty now, that of Harlan Price. The former Billionaire CEO had resigned quietly after the scandal that followed. Leaked emails, shady dealings, years of arrogance catching up all at once. Some said he'd moved abroad. Others said he couldn't face walking past a janitor again. When Malik entered, the new chairwoman, Miss Evans, smiled warmly. "Welcome home," she said. He smiled back. "Feels different." "It is," she said, "because this time you belong here." After the meeting, Malik wandered down to the maintenance floor, the quiet hallway where his father still worked, even though he didn't have to anymore. The old man looked up, grinning. "You wore the suit I got you," Malik laughed. "Couldn't show up in sneakers again, right?" "Maybe not," his father said, handing him a rag. "But I bet you still remember how to clean a floor." Malik took it with a smile. "Always." They cleaned side by side, the same way they had years ago. Only now, the city outside was brighter. The world, somehow, a little fairer. Later that night, Malik stood on the building's rooftop, staring down at the glowing skyline. Cameras and drones circled below, broadcasting his latest speech live to classrooms around the world. He spoke slowly, his voice warm and clear. "When I was 14, someone laughed at me for being a janitor's kid. He said he'd give my father his job if I could translate a contract. I did, but what he didn't understand is that language isn't just words. It's connection. And connection can come from anywhere. Even a boy with a mop and a dream." The crowd below erupted in applause. Malik smiled, his voice soft but strong. "So if you're listening to this, from Lagos, from Beijing, from Detroit, from anywhere, remember, you don't need permission to be brilliant. You don't need money to make meaning. You just need to believe that what's inside you matters. Even if no one's looking yet," he paused, glancing toward the horizon, the same direction the sun had risen that morning so many years ago. "Because one day," he said, "they will look, and when they do, make sure you've learned how to speak their language, and your own." As the applause rolled like thunder, Malik's father watched from the side of the stage, tears glinting under the lights. He whispered to himself, "You did it, son." And somewhere, far away, maybe watching from a quiet room, maybe pretending not to care, Harlan Price saw the broadcast too. He didn't speak. He just turned off the screen, leaned back and whispered the same words he once used to mock that boy. "Translate this." Only this time his voice cracked, because now he understood. That day, a janitor's son had rewritten the meaning of power, not with wealth, not with revenge, but with understanding, and the world, for once, listened.